Today, we'll look at how a good night's rest helps the heart. Hi everybody, welcome to Advanced Studio Classroom. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Steve, and I'll be your host for these next 3 days of this month's newsworthy clips. And with me in the studio today we have Lois. Welcome, Lois.
Thank you, Steve. Glad to be here. It's nice to be talking about the topics we're going to talk about today in August. And, you know, I like being inside here in the studio. It's nice and air-conditioned.
Yeah.
I'm not sweating and panting from the heat out there.
Good. We always enjoy having you here, Lois,
Thanks,
and
Steve.
hearing your opinions. And also we are particularly blessed to have Ruth here today. Welcome,
Hi,
Ruth.
Steve.
Yeah, welcome.
It's great to be here. I love coming back to be part of Advanced and learn some interesting things. And I'm especially interested to talk about sleep because sleep is a very enjoyable activity when it's so hot.
It is. It is. And we all love sleep, don't we?
Oh, yes.
We all love to have a good sleep.
Do we get enough of it, though?
Do we? Yeah. How many hours do you need, Lois? People need different amounts.
Yes,
right?
people need different amounts, but I think somewhere between 7 and 9 is good, but I lean towards getting just 7, and I know I need more than 7 hours sleep.
All right. Yeah. How about you, Ruth?
I usually need 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Because then I feel my best. I can get by on less, but not for a long time.
Right.
How about you?
I'm about the same. I'm in that 7 to 8 pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we so often, especially in this day and age, we shortchange ourselves. We cheat ourselves in our sleep because, I don't know, we think what we're doing is so important and we have to stay up late or play video games and watch Netflix or who knows, you know. But
Yep.
we're going to find out that it's really detrimental to our health. And that's a word we're going to look at in a minute. But sleep is very, very underestimated, and for so long we have heard reports that it hurts our liver, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you have liver problems, maybe it's because you don't sleep enough.
Right. Actually, it's something that I suffer with, and I didn't realize that sleep was connected to it, and I have to get more sleep, and I really have to watch my diet.
Because it has affected your liver?
Yes, I have. It's hereditary in my family, the females, and I have to, actually right now as we're talking, I'm under doctor's orders to get more sleep and to eat a certain way.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
Because
Ruth?
some people don't even realize that sleep has an important function because that's when your body repairs and regenerates itself. So if you never get enough sleep, you never allow your body to go through that process.
Yeah. Someone once said sleeping is kind of like a computer going through a systems control check. You know, it's going to go through every program and readjust things and correct things. And so that the next time you turn it on, it'll function properly.
Yeah.
That's
I like
right.
that analogy. And so that's one way we can look at sleep and how important it is. Well, let's open our magazines. If you have your magazine, please join us on page 22. And let's begin reading Getting to the Heart of Sleep.
Getting to the heart of sleep. Sleep is essential for a healthy heart. People who don't sleep enough are at higher risk for heart disease. One study that examined data from 3,000 adults over age 45 found that those who slept fewer than 6 hours per night were about twice as likely to have a stroke or heart attack as people who slept 6 to 8 hours per night. Sleep deprivation is a growing problem, with 28% of adults now reporting that they get 6 or fewer hours of sleep per night. It's not clear why less sleep is detrimental to heart health, but researchers understand that sleeping too little causes disruptions in many normal functions of the body, including blood sugar levels and blood pressure.
Okay, as we talked about before the reading, we mentioned that sleep is essential for a healthy liver, and that's been known for many, many years. Now the author is telling us today that sleep is essential for a healthy heart. And what you alluded to earlier, Ruth, it makes sense. I mean, sleep is essential for a healthy body, period.
Exactly.
I don't know why we keep picking out certain organs and saying, it's important for our brains. It's important for all of our organs, right?
Well, it's like the analogy you mentioned, Steve, is that it's like a computer rebooting all the systems and checking to make sure that it's all lined up and works properly.
Okay, now we're finding out, however, maybe this is the point of the article, is that people who don't sleep enough have a higher risk of heart disease.
Right.
Yeah, and so maybe that's the point. And one study examined that there's data from 3,000 adults. That's a pretty big pool of people. Over 45, they found that those who slept fewer than 6 hours per night were at risk, more at risk. So they were more at risk at having a stroke. And let's remind our listeners what a stroke is. Lois?
Steve, a stroke is a blockage to the brain. So obviously the blood flow isn't getting through. Blood isn't traveling like it should be.
Right.
And you'll often find that they have to watch people with high blood pressure in regards to they might be a candidate for a stroke down the road.
Okay, so if the blood's not getting to the brain, then the oxygen is not getting to the brain, and that's what causes the problem. And Ruth, is it fair to say a heart attack is kind of the same thing, except with the heart? There's not enough blood, or there's a blockage somewhere?
There's often a blockage somewhere. Usually it's because the inside of the blood vessels gets coated with some kind of fatty material.
Right, they call it plaque.
Yes. So the blood flow is restricted until the heart can't get enough oxygen. It just kind of stops.
Right. So these two very, very important organs in our body, our brain and our hearts, are affected when we lack sleep. Okay, when people deprive themselves. And deprivation is one of our key words today, so let's take a look at that. Deprivation means not getting something that is considered necessary for a pleasant life. Okay, deprivation.
Yes, and it comes from the verb deprive. Sometimes when you go on a diet, you deprive yourself of some of those delicious things you like to eat.
Yeah.
But it just means not having something.
Right. Often we might hear children are deprived of an education if they live in a third world country. They are deprived of many things that we might enjoy and feel that are normal.
Right. We often hear that people are deprived of clean water. That's often in the news these days.
Okay.
But sleep deprivation here is the big problem.
Yes.
It's increasing.
That's right. And it says with 28% of adults out of that 3,000 pool, they say they get fewer than 6 hours of sleep per night.
Oh, man, that's not good. When I read that, I thought, I hope this isn't every night, like continuously for weeks on end, because you are really affecting your health. Not only that, depending on what you do for a living, you can actually cause injury to yourself or injury to others. I think of my grandfather who was a farmer. You're always using heavy machinery or maybe, medium size machinery. And if you don't get enough sleep, you can either hurt somebody on the farm or an animal, or you can hurt yourself. And you really need that sleep. You really need to have a fresh brain in the morning.
Okay, since you went there, Lois, we'll talk about people like truck drivers and pilots.
Yes,
pilots, these guys are probably, a lot of them are taking pills to keep themselves awake so they can work longer hours and make more money, or maybe the pressure from their bosses to keep pushing them. And so these guys are tired.
Right, you think of, doctors, nurses, you think of surgeons, you think of lots of jobs that are necessities, and they actually are working either in the safety or emergency end of employment, but we want them to be rested.
Yes, very much so. I just saw a documentary, incidentally, last week about Navy SEALs and their training in the U.S. these military guys, and they go through this very intense training where they're not allowed to sleep for 10, 12 days straight. They are not allowed to sleep, and they have made studies that anything beyond that point is they're likely to die.
Wow.
Like they're pushing them to the edge. That's pretty amazing, right?
Well,
that
you know,
can push your body that hard.
For me, I'd be crying all the time because I notice for me, if I don't get enough sleep, that's some emotion that comes out of me. Like I do if I have consecutive evenings of not getting enough sleep or not getting any sleep.
Yeah.
I find that I will actually cry easily, so I can't imagine.
There's a
what
word
it's
for
like.
that in English. We say Lois would be cranky.
No, it's not cranky. I just want to cry.
How about maudlin?
Yeah. Or like a child, right?
Yeah.
When a young child is
Yeah.
sleepy,
Yeah.
gets irritable, cranky, starts crying,
Yeah.
and there's a reason for that. All right, well, let's move on to the next portion of our reading. We'll pick it up on line 23.
Lack of sleep also is a weighty issue. In a 2012 study, Mayo Clinic Health System cardiologist Andrew Calvin conducted, we found that people who slept less could gain up to 1 pound a week. Furthermore, those in the study who slept less had signs that their blood vessels didn't work as well, something called endothelial dysfunction. Endothelial dysfunction is found in people at risk of heart attacks, so this is a worrisome finding that should be explored further, adds Dr. Kelvin.
All right, friends, welcome back. We're going to challenge you and your English vocabulary for this month's Newsworthy Clips. There are a lot of difficult words, even for us native English speakers. So hang on, put your seatbelt on, and maybe if you need to, get a pencil ready or a pen, and writing some things down will help you to remember. That would be helpful. Now we're on line 23, and the author says it's not clear why less sleep is detrimental to heart health. Detrimental? Could someone help you with that?
Sure, I'll
Lois?
help you with that. Detrimental is causing harm or damage. I'm thinking how I used to use that word when I was raising my children, who are long raised now, but I used to tell them things like, you stay up all night and play those games, it's going to be detrimental to your health, or it's going to be detrimental to your grades at school. So we use that word in different situations.
That's
and-
right. And it just means causing harm or
Exactly.
damage. So like eating a poor diet is detrimental to your body.
Yeah, I think most often I hear it in relation to health, right?
Yes.
Sometimes we'll hear it maybe in school grades, as you alluded to,
Yes.
Lois. If you stay up all night playing video games, that'll be detrimental to your grades or to
Yeah,
your
your health.
performance
Yeah,
at
yeah.
school. Okay, so less sleep is detrimental to heart health, but researchers understand that sleeping too little causes disruptions in many normal functions. I don't see how this is really super news, but the scientists are digging a little deeper and finding things like blood sugar levels are affected and blood pressure as well.
All right, and blood sugar is simply glucose in the blood. There are all kinds of diseases that can be caused by either blood sugar that's too low or that's too high. So it's important that your body has a system to regulate that. And it sounds like what they're saying here is that system is disrupted if you don't have enough sleep.
Right. And what's interesting is before the reading, Lois talked about how she gets irritable and cranky. And I know a lot of people who get that way, not because of a lack of sleep, but because they're hungry and their
Right.
blood sugar level is low.
Yeah.
And so we find that, maybe there's a connection between all of this, between lack of sleep and our blood sugar levels and our mood.
Right.
So it's kind of confirming then what's, to me, common sense.
Yeah.
You don't get enough sleep, you're going to be cranky.
Right.
You don't eat enough, you're going to be cranky.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I have friends and family members with hypoglycemia, and if they don't eat properly or at the right time every day or get enough protein or have too much sugar in their diet, oh my goodness, they're hard to live with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you
they-
have to kind of tiptoe around them.
Yes, like walking on eggshells, as we would say.
All right, let's move to the top of the right-hand column. And this first sentence is, the author is having some fun with us. There's a pun here. Lack of sleep also is a weighty issue. Okay, and we see the word weighty there in quotes. And so this is a pun. Weighty has two meanings here. One is that it's very serious, right? A weighty matter is a very serious matter. What's the other meaning that the author is using here, Ruth?
He's referring to the fact that you're going to gain weight if you don't sleep enough.
Right.
Because your weight is something that a lot of us are concerned with because it's something that seems to creep up on you as you get older.
Yeah. I've heard this, and I don't know how true it is, that the more you sleep, the more energy you burn while sleeping. You actually lose weight sleeping. Have you heard that
Yes,
before?
I have. Actually, I saw a study on it maybe a year or two ago.
So,
Yeah.
Steve, does that mean I have permission to take more naps?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, if you want to lose weight, friends, take more naps and have good sleep. Yeah, for real.
So what's it mean? Have a nap, have a sleep for 8 hours a day, have a nap for 6, and only eat one meal a day.
Yeah, lose some weight. Well, in a 2012 study, the Mayo Clinic Health System cardiologist Andrew Calvin conducted, they found that people who slept less could gain up to 1 pound a week.
Wow.
Okay.
That will add up quickly, too.
I think so.
So, because 1 pound a week, you think, maybe that's not so
52
bad.
weeks in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that would
a
add
little
up.
frightening, isn't it?
Well, furthermore, those in the study who slept less had signs that their blood vessels didn't work as well. So, lack of sleep is going to hurt your brain, it's going to hurt your liver, your heart, your blood vessels. I think we've concluded that it's detrimental to every part of your body, right?
And Steve, it's interesting to think how intricate your body is. I mean, maybe most people didn't even think that your blood vessels have a lining. They're not just like a plastic tube. There's all kinds of little parts that work together. And here we have endothelial dysfunction, which means that the lining of your blood vessel that helps probably push the blood through doesn't work properly if you don't get enough rest.
Very, very true. And Ruth, thank you for tackling that word for us. Endothelial dysfunction. As you said, Ruth, there is a lining, and this lining is a very thin layer of cells, and it's not just in blood vessels, but it's all over our body. Like there's this very thin coating around our heart, and
Right.
I don't know what it does exactly, but it helps keep things running smoothly. And if this is affected, it's going to cause problems for different parts of our body.
Right, like when we see endothelial dysfunction is found in people at risk of heart attacks. So this is worrisome, finding that should be explored further. So it's a huge concern. It's a heavy concern.
Yeah, it's a weighty
Or a
concern,
weighty concern.
weighty issue for sure.
Right. And then Dr. Calvin is also saying that this endothelial dysfunction is found in people who are at risk of heart attack. So again, there's another connection between the two.
Right. So maybe we shouldn't be surprised, but finally somebody's connecting the dots, you
Right.
might say, and saying, okay, this is all interconnected, and we are very complicated people.
So Steve, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can you explain the difference between dysfunction and malfunction?
I was going to ask Lois that same question.
Well, I think malfunction, let me see if I can do this, applies to something that we operate. Okay? And dysfunction is something that goes on in the human body.
That's what I would say too.
Yes.
But they're two
Yeah.
very similar
They're
meaning
very
words,
similar
just
words.
used in different contexts.
So you will say that my car malfunctioned on the way to work, therefore I'm late today. Where dysfunction, you'll say that your mom has an illness that causes dysfunction of her hearing.
Yeah. Oftentimes, I think when I hear the word dysfunction most, I think I hear it in relation to relations,
Yes.
relatives. And
like a dysfunctional family.
right, a
That's
dysfunctional
true.
relationship, a dysfunctional family. And so these things that should operate smoothly and normally are out of whack or out of sync.
But if you go to the doctor's office, he will definitely use the word dysfunction.
Right.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, ladies. And let's move on then to our last reading. We'll pick it up on line 11.
Another condition that can affect heart health is sleep apnea, a condition that causes people to wake frequently throughout the night. This disrupted sleep can lead to higher blood pressure at night and during the day, and may increase the risk for heart attacks and stroke. But it doesn't take a severe underlying sleep disorder to see effects on the heart. Poor sleeping, as a result of changing work schedules or poor sleep habits, for example, can put you at risk as well. Don't compromise your heart health, says Dr. Kelvin. Do your best to make quality sleep a priority in your life.
Hi, friends. Okay, thank you for the reading. And if you've just joined us, we are on page 22 in our advanced magazines this month. We're talking about getting to the heart of sleep. My name is Steve, and in the studio with me is Lois and Ruth. So thanks for joining us. And we're talking about the problems that happen when we cheat ourselves in sleeping. So there's another condition that can affect heart health called sleep apnea. And this is something that I'm pretty familiar with because someone in my family has this, and maybe you do too. Lois, you're nodding your head.
Something that my family, my husband and my 2 children, accuse me of having.
Oh.
I am not sure if I do. I do notice that I think I have I demonstrate that I might have it when my weight goes up.
Okay.
Okay, but when my weight comes down, it doesn't seem to be a problem.
Interesting.
And you know, a guy that used to board with my parents, he even had the machine for sleep apnea.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Because actually, sleep apnea, it causes you to wake during the night. But one reason that it does is because you actually stop breathing, and when your heart and lungs are deprived of oxygen, that forces you to wake up. So that's why the machine that Lois was referring to is actually something that pumps oxygen into you for the whole night.
That's right. I just talked to my friend who has this problem. He went into a clinic
Yes.
and slept overnight, and the doctors hooked him up, and I could not believe the results. He slept 420 minutes a night, okay, and 240 of those minutes he was not breathing. Can you believe that?
Oh my goodness.
Because like you said, he stopped breathing, and up to 50 seconds, the doctors told him there were moments for 50 seconds where he was holding his breath. He didn't know it. He was unconscious.
Right.
And if you sleep like that every night, that's not good for your body. And he's a little overweight, and he's got high blood pressure, and so they're going to try to come up with a plan to help him through this. But that's really every night. It's like whittling away at your body and destroying it.
Wow, that must have been scary. Those results must have been scary for him.
They were.
But the first step to fixing it is exactly analyzing and finding the problem. Because now, luckily, they can find a treatment for it.
Right, that's half the battle, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So sleep apnea is a really big deal, and it's a condition that causes, as you said, Ruth, people to wake frequently throughout the night. And this disrupted sleep can lead to high blood pressure and may increase the risk for heart attacks and stroke. And I think my friend seems to be like in that danger zone very much. The doctors were, in fact, shocked at the results.
Well, at the length of time he was going without oxygen. Well, you know, Steve, I think throughout this whole article, if people were not concerned about getting enough sleep, they should be now.
Yes.
Right. And I'm sure his doctors have already told him, more exercise, sir. You need more exercise.
Yes, more exercise, a change in the diet. And it turned out that he was running on adrenaline a lot. His body throughout the day, and to get through the day, he was running on these reserves, and he always was very tired. And you know, his shoulders he felt like he was beat down a lot. So hopefully he can get some help now. All right, let's move on to the next paragraph. And it says it doesn't take a severe underlying sleep disorder to see effects on the heart. So underlying, let's quickly look at that, and it means real but not immediately obvious. So we're heading down this road, and some of these things that we may have overlooked initially, like, oh, I'm getting 6 hours of sleep and I can do it. It's going to catch up with us, right?
Right, and you'll see this word a lot. We hear it a lot in the news that there's underlying reasons why something happened or underlying circumstances that resulted in some kind of problem. So ones that are not immediately obvious, but they're there and they're important and they're actually a root cause then of the problem.
Good point, yeah.
Another thing you'll find when you go to check these things out, doctors, they'll just ask you, are you feeling dizzy? Because one of the signs of not getting enough sleep, you will start feeling dizzy. Most people do.
Okay. Yeah, and we've talked a lot about that here at Advanced, about reasons we get bad sleep and what we should do before bedtime to get our bodies ready for sleep. So there's a lot to be said and read about that. All right, let's move on and finish up this lesson today on the last paragraph. Don't compromise your heart health, says Dr. Calvin. And let's look at this word compromise quickly. Lois?
Yes, compromise is to allow your principles to become less strong or your standards or morals to be lowered.
Okay, so what are we compromising here? Our health, right?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if you're not getting enough sleep, you're causing damage or harm to your heart. So you're compromising your whole body's health.
That's right. And we don't even know it. I mean,
No.
when we're young, we feel like we can get away with it. But it catches up with us, right?
Yeah,
As we're
it
getting
does.
older in life.
It does. And most physicians or health specialists would tell you the last thing you should compromise in life is your health.
Yes.
Because you're compromising your life.
Yep.
Well, Steve, sometimes I think young people almost are proud of the fact that they don't need too much sleep. Oh, I only slept 2 hours last night and I'm feeling fine. And that makes me want to say, well, do that for about 4 nights in a row and we'll talk again.
Yeah, and they're just drinking these sports drinks and caffeine drinks and feel like they're invincible. But they're not. It's going to catch up with them. So do your best to make quality sleep a priority in your life. And we're going to leave it there, friends. And we would love for you to join us tomorrow for day 2 of newsworthy clips about bacteria that can eat plastic bottles. And we hope you join us for that. Until then, I'm Steve, and I hope you have a great day.